Well, good morning. This is going to be fun. So, no kidding, that wasn't sarcastic. Here you have my car parked in the cow pasture. Why, you ask, is the car parked in the cow pasture? There is a ramp next to the back of the car, and over there, in the shadows, in the cool comfort of the shade, are my training partners. Yukon is 7 months old, I think, and Nissa is 4 months old, something like that. So there's the stage. Now we'll talk about why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. And this matters a lot to me. And I'm going to let you just, look at life while I talk. So Susan Friedman's hierarchy of behavior change talks about least intrusive training methods. And I absolutely am dedicated to being that kind of a trainer. And she states that the thing that there's a hierarchy. There's the easiest for a dog, and then there's increasing the pressure that you put on a dog, or the expectations, or I'm probably not saying it very well, but the very first place that she suggests behavior change start is by changing the antecedents in the dog's life to see if you can change the behavior. Well, I find that with working with guardian dogs, that works better than treat pouches most of the time. And if I change the antecedents of the environment so that the dog changes his behavior is connected to the environment, not me and my treat pouch. So I think I have better odds of the dog continuing to make that connection between the real estate that's so important in his life and the behavior that we just did. So I've also talked a lot about targeting and about creating a reinforcement history in a target, or in a target can be an area. So also, LGDs are bred to be suspicious of novel things and to manage novel things. They're responsible for their real estate, the ground they stand on. So if I ask them to investigate this ramp, which may be scary, the car that may be scary, and I take them out of their environment and into my yard to do that, then I've given them more responsibility, which compounds the picture. They would probably leave the car area and go look around because they're supposed to do that. So now the focus is not on the car, the focus is on them managing the environment from their standpoint, which gets in the way of my goal, which is interact with the car. So if I bring the car to them, to an area that is reinforcement rich, as this where I'm standing is, where the camera is faced is, they have a lot of reason to want to stand in this area with me because it's a heavily reinforced area. They just simply like to be here. This is where they're fed. This is where they hang out a good deal of the time. So for the car to be here, the car becomes part of this targeted area of high reinforcement history. It is novel to them in their environment, so they don't have to worry about what's around the car. They only have to worry about the car. So they have every reason to want to look at the car and focus on the car and whatever I'm doing with it differently than if they were outside. They are not going to be on leash because a dog's ability to control his own body is a primary reinforcer. So if I know that, and whatever training goals I have subtract from the dog, like if I put a leash on a dog that's somewhat aversive to a dog, then I'm not starting at a training balance. I'm starting at a training deficit. I don't want to do that. I want to start at least on an even balance, and then I want to add reinforcement, and so up and up and up, so that it becomes so cool to work with me that there's just no downside to it. Why would they not want to? Why wouldn't they just be thrilled to work with me? And that's pretty much how life is with my dogs. And it's because I don't take away things from them in order to ask them to learn something new. We add the something new to an already rich and well-balanced relationship and environment. And it's lovely training. It's very easy to do if you know that where the aversives are. I didn't know that even putting a long line or a harness on a dog added some aversive aspect to it. There are times that I choose to do it, but I do it with conscious thought, and I do it with working to minimize whatever downside they experience for the greater good. Sometimes leashes and collars and harnesses need to go on for the safety of the dog, and that's just a fact. And dogs need to learn how to cope with that. But as a trainer, I can make that as least aversive a situation as possible and as most reinforcing as possible. So there's more to that story, but I digress. So let's take a look at what I'm going to do here. So Yukon, stretched out in the shade over there, is pretty noise sensitive and a little bit motion sensitive. So I am going to open the car and I'm going to put the ramp out the back without the dogs being underfoot, because I don't want to take a chance on them being frightened by it. So they have the choice. They're behind a fence, which is called working behind protected contact. The dogs know that they're on the other side of the fence and nothing on this side can go closer to them than the fence. So that's comforting. So if this car and ramp looks scary, that provides Yukon with some security. I will let them watch all this from a safe distance, knowing that knowing they can retreat, go in the barn, they can move away. That will give them an opportunity to look at what I'm doing with, again, some sense of safety. Once I get the ramp in place, then I'm going to go open the gate and invite the dogs to come. I'm wearing a treat pouch. Oh my gosh, am I loaded with good things. I've got baked chicken, I've got string cheese, I've got little hard treat things that I can toss, because I want to be able to toss things up in the car. They've never seen a ramp. They haven't been in this car. Nissa's going to go have her hip testing in 3 days. So this is something that we need to be working on. So sometimes things I ask of dogs are harder for the dogs than I think they will be. Sometimes they're easier than I think they will be. Of the two, Yukon is generally the more cautious. She's young, and she's kind of young and foolish, and that's cool. Let's go look at that. So we'll see. They're going to react to this differently, these two dogs. They work really well together. The fact that they're together and their temperaments are different is a strength for both of them. It's also really interesting for me to watch.